Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running and nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology, and thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic day, and hopefully everything is working out. So yeah, everyone, welcome into the Computer America Show. Hey, last time I ever have to say this, well, at least for the entire year. Hey, no other way to put it. Computer America will be off the air for an entire week and then some. Today is our last show before our Christmas break. We take this every single year. This is not out of the ordinary. But if you're wondering why all next week there's going to be a lot of reruns and best ofs and things like that, well, there's your reason. Computer America should be back bright and early. January 2nd, I believe, is when we come back, and well-rested, happy, and ready to jump into the chaos that is CES. So everyone, welcome into the Computer America Show. We have a great show to really kick off the year, and this is none other than the Nathan Evans. He'll be joining us in just a moment. But yeah, we're going to be talking, just some fun stories, nice relaxing day. It's, I'll be honest, I'm sure a lot of you have felt it too. Before you take a week-long vacation, the day before you're supposed to leave, you are just so... I don't want to say I'm checked out because I'm feeling good. I'm happy. I'm happy to be here, but I'm ready for the vacation to start. So everyone, we're gonna have fun with the show today, and it's gonna be a good time. So a couple of things: computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So be that the show notes, links to the articles, any videos that we show, any reviews, a link to our guest website, anything like that, you can find at computeramerica.com. Also, check out the live video stream over at twitch.tv /Computer America, of course. Check out our social media at computeramerica.com, wherever social media, whichever one that may be, except for Google+. I think it's official. We are no longer updating, monitoring, or interacting on Google+. Google did that about 2 years ago, so I think we're going to follow suit. I think with all that being said, why don't we go ahead, bring in our guest, and get today's show started. So, as I said before, Popzara, longtime correspondent of the show, friend of the show, and of course they're going to be helping us do our CES coverage out there this year again, and couldn't thank them enough for it. And all around, just a great website that you should definitely know about for game reviews, movies, topics, just discussion. It's a really fun website. So, welcome back on the show, Nathan Evans, managing editor of Popzara. Nathan, how you doing?
Ben, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, all the fun stuff. Welcome back. Real quick for your listeners, I don't know if they can hear it, but your adorable hold music, I just thought of it, sounds like what would happen. You know how Disney acquires everything? They acquired the Muppets, the Marvel Universe by Soul?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if Disney acquired, Pornhub, that's what the music would sound like. It sounds, you know what I mean? It sounds like it's adorable, but it's something you'd hear elsewhere, and I love it.
Well, and that's not my only hold music. That's kind of the intro. I'm sure you're talking about the, kind of like while we're waiting for the show to start. And then my actual waiting music. So if I have to step away or something comes up and I have to take care of something, I try to put on, let's see if I can even hear this. It's really low. Can you hear that in the background?
Kind of. It sounds like ducks fighting.
It's Matt and Trey Parker. It's from South Park, a Fractured Butthole, and
the game. The new, is it the new one? No, that's not the new one, is it?
Yeah. The game I think came out this year, and it's when you're waiting. It's when you're talking with Mr. Mackey and you're waiting to identify yourself, your gender, and things like that. It's definitely a lot of fun. But hey, that's not the point. Music aside, Nathan, thanks for coming back on. How have you been? The holidays treating you well so far?
Well, it's only been 3 weeks, Ben, because somebody gets to take a break, and that somebody's not me. So we gotta make this show go on. It's gotta survive. People need something to listen to for the Christmas holidays. And you know what's fun? We should put on a star-studded live performance of a Christmas Carol, and we could all play parts, like they used to do back in the old days with real radio shows. You remember that, where I could be Ebenezer Scrooge and Bob Crackett, and you can be Marley.
I a little bit before my time, but I know that we have done a number of things over the history of Computer America, and a lot of them, and one of them that I really wish I did this year, but I just honestly lazy. But one of them that I did not set up was I usually have one show dedicated to all of our correspondents calling in the same show and saying hi, that kind of thing. So no, we just managed to squeeze everyone in. You are officially the last correspondent that we haven't had on the show in the past 2 weeks. So yeah, I think that's just about good enough. So
feels like forever.
Yeah, I know. And before we go any further, you again, managing editor Popzara, tell the folks about Popzara, what it is that you set out to do with your site.
Well, Popzara is more like an idea. It's more like a thing, like an intangible, and if more like a epic changing paradigm shift. Now it's a website with a dinosaur, and we cover a little bit of everything. You've seen this, we know this. It covers movies, video games, tech. Well, especially tech, you know what I'm saying? Books, all that good stuff. And actually, it's quite a smorgasbord right now, and there's more coming for the Christmas holiday. I think we have reviews of Mary Poppins, we have Aquaman, we have PlayStation Classics, we have Smash Brothers podcasts, we have new book reviews, in case you're into that sort of thing. A little bit of everything, except for politics, because increasingly that's not allowed. And I think everybody prefers it that way.
Yeah, no, it's I think that if you want politics, there's enough places to go that cater to that kind of thing that it's like, because it's so overbearing. As soon as you get into that, then you are a politics show instead of a tech show. So, or you are a politics site instead of an entertainment site, which I really do think that, Popzara works best. Popzara magazine works best as an entertainment.
Who said it? You know who said it best? Zoolander, Derek Zoolander, in the movie Zoolander, 2001. He's a model/actor, not an actor/model. And a lot of these websites have, they have fevered dreams of being like the next H.L. Mencken or some, Tom Wolfe, that they can sort of intersect politics with narrative in a journalistic fashion. And you can't, because you're not good enough. You suck. Stick to your root thing. Tell me about an iPhone, but don't tell me about the plight of the Amazonian warriors and how it's contributing to the global breakdown of society. I just want to know, is it cool? Is it worth $1,000? Is the notch going to ruin my life? I don't need to know the other stuff. And frankly, we tune you out. So, as they like to say, shut up and dance. So,
and that is perfectly okay. But hey, let's start getting into some of our topics that we have lined up here, because we have a heck of a lot of them. And why don't we go ahead and start with one of yours? And this is something that I'll be honest, I don't have a Switch, so I didn't buy it. I feel like the only one that hasn't, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I've been watching a lot of it on Twitch, though. It's, as far as games go that are very enjoyable to watch, I don't want to say I've never played Smash Brothers. Like, I played it for like an hour at my friend's house way back when. But watching Smash Brothers has always been a lot of fun. And watching this latest iteration that they just put out a couple of weeks ago, it's been some of the most engaging gameplay that I've had the pleasure to watch. So talk about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Full disclosure, never played it. Fuller disclosure, probably will never play it. Final disclosure, like you, Ben, I could watch this stuff all day. Because Smash Brothers to me is like watching Chinese ping pong. Like, you're familiar with the fundamentals, you're familiar with how the game was designed, but the experts take that crap to a whole nother level. Yeah. And you've seen Chinese ping pong. Like, it was not designed to do that. It has been perfected by the Chinese. Yeah. And so
And Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. I mean, it's kind of the same way. Like, you think it's, sure, a button smasher may be able to beat someone, occasionally, but then you watch some of these pros and you watch these people go through the story and you watch people play the game, and it's like there's so much skill here that you immediately recognize when someone is really good at the game, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
And you also recognize your place in the universe is not in the game. It is from the sidelines eating popcorn. But I will say this, for those three people out there who don't know what Smash Brothers is, it's basically a Nintendo-thon with some extra characters thrown in. It's every major Nintendo character you could possibly think of, and over the years, it's sort of like a Katamari Damacy. It's sort of rolled in other franchises like Sonic the Hedgehog, Pac-Man, Mega Man. Basically, every other franchise that was one time competitive with Nintendo, but has since fallen by Nintendo's side, Nintendo sort of scooped them up. And what's interesting about it, Ben, you know this, as a video game fan, the Smash Brothers series has basically become like a love letter to video games. And in the new one, you have Street Fighters, you have the characters from Castlevania, you have characters from Final Fantasy, there's a Rayman cameo in there.
Tons of Pokemon and just every franchise you can think of as and they had like Solid Snake in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Solid Snake. And apparently this. Now, your friend and mine, Herman Exum, and Corey Gallagher, who's both been on this program, they did a podcast about it. I recommend you listen to it. Some of it's not impenetrable. But the fact of the matter is that the general consensus is that this series, despite being wildly inventive, is not innovative. It's basically a best of where it's taken all the stuff that works and just smushed it all into one little cartridge. And I love saying cartridge again. and they just throw it at the screen, and most of it seems to stick. And that's basically technology in a nutshell. It's, do you want your innovative iPhone that can contact Mars, the Mars rover, and digitally transmit your thoughts to alien life forms? Or do you just want to be able to make a phone call without it breaking up? And I think 9 times out of 10 people will take just stability, and I think that's what Smash Brothers is. And I think I'm actually going to be recording a show with Corey after I talk with you. But apparently the Smash Brothers game has become one of the year's bestsellers already. It's probably the fastest selling Nintendo game of all time. It's the perfect confluence of something that didn't happen in the last generation of consoles, for those listening. The Switch is very, very popular, and the Switch is very, very popular with people who play video games like you, like the hardcore gamer, and the casual gamer. And there's a lot of pent-up love for this. So it's a perfect storm for Nintendo to make gobs and gobs of money.
And admittedly, some of the really pro people that I watch, they are a bit miffed with starting to see the cracks in the Switch console, such as no Ethernet port, when you have things like this where it's literally down to the frame and every millisecond of latency actually matters. I mean, they start to get mad, but overall, the gameplay itself and, the online has its own problems with no dedicated servers or, whether or not that's even an issue. Like, there's a lot of belly aching, but they're belly aching because
Wait a minute.
They like
professional gamers belly aching?
How
dare you? They have the temperance of Buddhist nuns. What are you talking about?
Not really, but they're mad because they love it. And honestly, just from what I've seen, it's really, really cool. And also, like you said, one of the best-selling games. It's pushing the Switch to even higher levels. Although I did see a comment online talking about, I think it was either Nintendo or someone reporting about Nintendo saying that, actually, I think it was Nintendo themselves. They tweeted out a statement like, thanks for making the Nintendo Switch the fastest-selling console of this generation. And I like the way that a random person on the internet, there's a lot of them, but the way that they put it, and it's that, oh no, Nintendo, you're not even a part of this generation of console. You are your own weird, lovely thing. And I couldn't agree more. Honestly, I would not put the Switch in with the PlayStation 4, Xbox One generation. It's its own thing. It's starting to deviate, and it's working.
Well, I would say why not both? The fact of the matter is that evolution requires there be different divergence from the norm. And, it's Darwin Finches. It's when you look at the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, consoles. They've been, successful in their own way, but they're pretty much just two sides of one and half a dozen of the other. They're basically the same thing, give or take, and they basically play the exact same games in the exact same way in the exact same fashion.
Yeah.
And Nintendo consoles tend to be successful when they diverge from that, when they differentiate themselves, and they tend to be not so hot when they don't, aka the Wii versus the Wii U. The Switch is very much of this generation, but it's also very much of its own. That is, it's generationally the same way Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev were the same generation, right? And so it's
timeline, but that's about all I would give. I would only say it exists at the same time. That's the only reason it's the same generation.
Yeah, but they also represent very much two sides of the gaming industry, which is the gaming industry is not just Call of Duty and Call of Duty and Battlefield and God of War. It is also, as Nintendo reminds us often, Mario and Pac-Man and Mega Man and things like that. And you can have both, and they can coexist. And frankly, the gaming industry is much better when it coexists, when it's not completely dominated by any one company, including Nintendo. So it's a good time. It's happy times.
Point taken. And by the way, anyone, I'd say that my favorite character to watch when you are actually watching Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I don't know why I never owned a Wii Fit, but watching the Wii Fit characters, the trainers and like the yoga master and stuff like that, watching them kick butt in Super Smash Brothers, it's a lot of fun. I don't know why, but seeing those faceless blobs. Yeah.
Here's something to consider. One of the biggest failures that Nintendo has ever had has been Rob the Robot that launched with the original Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh, he is so bad. I can't say that word. He's so good.
But Nintendo embraces their failures and they own it in a way that is entertaining. And Rob the Robot, your robot pal that was worthless, has never really gone away, and he's back again.
Yeah,
and it's funny.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's funny. It's fun. It's embracing flaws in a way that it's the same way. Oh, look, I have one final thing to say. If you've ever followed Nintendo stuff recently, they don't differentiate between 8-bit pixels and photorealistic polygons. Mm-hmm. And Pixel Mario can sit happily alongside Gorad shaded polygonal Mario. Same with Zelda and all that. They can. In some cases, like with games like Super Mario Maker, they interact with each other. And there's something to be said about honoring a legacy that's not replaceable. The same way, when the gaming industry has a tendency to say, well, this version's the best. This new Call of Duty replaces the old one. You've seen it. Mm-hmm. That's not the case with Nintendo. The new doesn't replace the old. The new adds to the old. And that's very interesting. And I think a much healthier way to look at things, generally speaking. Than,
I think that it's also and also it's just kind of good for Nintendo because when you see the old Gods next to the new, you say, hey, maybe it's time that the old become new, and you get reboots, sequels, things like that. Certainly can happen. So, all right, so we're gonna switch off that. Great game. I can understand why it's selling like crazy, and I look forward to actually seeing how far it can push the Switch. But so there's that. Let's go ahead and keep on the light side, the fun side. Let's start talking trailers because you have a lot of things about movies in here. It's also up at your website. You have a review or two, and I'll be honest. One of them, and one of my favorite is Aquaman. Yeah, Jason Momoa has become kind of like almost The Rock-esque, where you just see him and you're just happy that he's on the screen in front of you. And at the same time, the DC universe has had some flops. There's no doubt about it. So I'm interested. I'm happy for Jason Momoa. It's kind of like the Green Lantern. You like the character. You like the actor. The story could be work. But what do you think of it?
Haven't seen it. I believe we have a review up right now, though.
Chris Mitchell.
Chris Mitchell. We had a few people attend the screenings, and I want to say that by all accounts, the movie seems to be doing pretty well with both critics and fans. Like you said, it's a part of the DC universe, which is let's just say DC universe is kind of like when you go to Thanksgiving dinner at the Kennedys. Like everyone has their own unique story, and it's not all positive. And so, but yet they're all popular. And so even DC movies that typically don't do well, like the Justice League movie, which should have been the biggest movie of all time, was a disaster artistically and commercially, but it still made money. It's sort of like,
and the problem with that was, and this is, I'm totally spitting out other people's opinions and acting like they're my own, but from what I heard, it was the fact that, the Marvel character universe was, started in first gear with Iron Man 1 and had shifted all the way into fourth gear, and the DC universe is like, oh, we got to get in on that, and they went straight from first gear to fourth gear. And
that's not untrue.
It's just no build-up.
That's not untrue. There was more of an organic melding of the Avengers, and I don't mean the Avengers as a movie, but the Avengers as an idea, that we can introduce these characters and have them all conglomerate. Whereas the DC, basically it said, let's make Batman our template and make everything dark. And let's just jump right into the thing. Let's introduce all these characters in one movie, and it doesn't work. And, the Justice League movie, which should have been, like I said, it should have been huge, which was the first movie to star, by the way, Jason Momoa as Aquaman, was a disaster. It was a disaster on every level you can imagine. It was just a horrific piece of engineering that should be studied in film school about how to screw up beloved franchises. But whereas, and again, people say, well, maybe people are fatigued. This is 2018. People were not fatigued with Marvel movies. 3 of the biggest movies of the year were Disney Marvel movies, and including the biggest and the second biggest. There's no dissipation on that whatsoever. And here's the thing: Jason Momoa is not a movie star. He's someone who stars in movies. It's a big difference. This is a guy that's been toiling away for years, and he's been in just unrelenting cinematic bombs. One of the most entertaining bombs, by the way, if you can see it, starring my favorite, Sylvester Stallone, is a movie from a couple years ago called Bullet to the Head, which delivers exactly that. And he was, and of course, he was famous for being in Game of Thrones as
Khal Drogo.
Drogo. You said it. I'm going to get death threats if I say it wrong. But from Drago fans, like, how dare you? But no, he's an interesting looking guy. He's like what would happen if The Rock and Rob Zombie mated and had a baby, and they would have Jason Momoa. And he's come a long way since Baywatch. But I can tell you from people who have actually seen the movie, nobody, like when I said, what did you think of Aquaman? And they tell me, oh, I like this, I like Black Mantis, I like this, I like these characters. I was like, I noticed you didn't say anything about Aquaman. and it seems like he's got the Chris Hemsworth thing going on. And this is, by the way, this is a problem with the Marvel movies too. And I want to be fair. I want to be equitable on my disdain. The Marvel movies are products that are sort of products of licensing.
Yep.
But the most familiar character in every Marvel movie has been Stan Lee. Go figure. But like you have Chris Hemsworth as Thor, you have Chris Evans as Captain America. You have these actors playing these characters, but they're not above being replaced. You know what I mean? Like they're just one scandal away from being character swapped, which we saw in Iron Man 2 with what's his name? I forget his name. Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle.
Nope.
And very, very, and to be fair about this, they're going to have a lot harder time replacing someone like Robert Downey Jr. than they are replacing like Chris Evans. And that's the kind of impression that I get with Aquaman, that he's a reliable, likable personality that can anchor this gigantic, huge, colorful, underwater, like Little Mermaid on steroid story of a prince coming home. By the way, want to know a fun note for your listeners?
Sure.
So 2 movies open this weekend. You got Aquaman and you have Mary Poppins Returns. Fun fact. Julie Andrews is not in Mary Poppins Returns. I've seen the movie. I can tell you what. I can give you a little mini review if you want to hear it. Julie Andrews is in Aquaman. As a giant fish monster. So
yeah, I mean, if you can't make it in your original movie, hey, piggyback on the other one, that works. And I definitely did want to bring up Mary Poppins as well. Great to hear that Aquaman's doing well, but Mary Poppins Returns. I'll be honest. I missed Mary Poppins. It was probably a little bit before my time. Never really I think I watched it, during grade school or something like that. But overall, I was never. I'm not like, oh, Mary Poppins for a new generation, hooray, because it was never part of my generation. So
Less Mary, more Poppins.
I will say though that this is proof, and this is, I guess, written in golden blood from Disney himself before he passed, that every 20 years, just like we're about to get, the Lion King, a new Lion King movie, every 20 years Disney is to recreate the classics.
That's true. So. That's very, very true. When you say recreate, what you really mean is tinkle all over. And they did this in the 90s. They did this subversively in the 90s when they created sequels out of everything under the sun with these mediocre cash grab direct-to-video garbage fests, all of which have been rightfully disdained and forgotten. And they're doing it right now. And I remember sitting there in Mary Poppins watching trailers for Dumbo and Lion King, and now they have, Aladdin. The new Aladdin, by the way, looks like a baby. I'm not allowed to say the word that I think it looks like on the show. But
replacing Robin Williams as the genie with Will Smith, and Will Smith, he's a likable guy, but he does not scream the charisma that is Robin Williams. So I don't know.
The thing about Robin Williams is that he didn't really have charisma. He had charismas, like he had multiple charismas, often parallel to each other, like a stereo mix of the Beatles album. And the thing about it is, when I watched the Lion King trailer, I don't know if you saw it, is like beat for beat, note for note, even the same voice actors were in there. It's like they've recreated something. It's not even live action.
They got James Earl Jones to do Mufasa, and I was like, obviously, there's nothing else you could do with that role. So
no, but that's what I'm saying though. They got him. He was still alive, right? And James Earl Jones. And the thing about it. You want my mini? Do I have time for a mini review of Mary Poppins?
No, about 3 minutes. Go for it.
Okay, real quick. So, little surprise to your listeners. Mary Poppins is, gun to head, my favorite movie of all time, and I will not try to explain or prove that to you. I will just say that it's probably my favorite movie of all time. So I saw the new movie, and it's perfectly serviceable. It's a B plus, maybe a solid B. Emily Blunt does extremely good work as doing something that should not be tried and attempted, which is to replace Julie Andrews. Mm-hmm. The problem is that it's a musical. And this is something that all modern movies have, especially modern musicals, is that they don't think it's important to make the songs any good. And when's the last time you walked into a new movie and walked out thinking, I like that song. That song is sticking in my head? None. No modern musical can do this.
The trend nowadays is more to contracts. Like I think Venom was like the last kind of big movie that I saw, and they had some really big names. Or like let's say Black Panther, they take big names, have them write songs, but you're like, holy crap, that was Beyonce singing a new song in the movie, and it's not like you attribute it to the singer and not the movie.
But I'm talking actual in music, like movie musicals, when music is integral to the story.
Right.
And when the characters stop what they're doing and sing and dance, and the music is it's dull. It's dull. It's not memorable. It's there. Characters dance. They got Lin-Manuel from Hamilton in it, and he had nothing to do with the music. That's like getting Michael Jackson in your movie,
and he never dances,
and having him play a banker. It's a waste of talent. I will say this, though. Here's the thing. Perfectly serviceable. It won't ruin your day. It had its moments. Made me smile sometimes. Not a whisker of the original movie's charm. But I will say this. No spoilers. At the end of the movie, Dick Van Dyke shows up, and he's amazing. And the best part of my best movie moment of 2018 is in Mary Poppins Returns, so I have to give it credit. Angela Lansbury shows up at the end. And she sings a song, and the only word I can use for Angela Lansbury is resplendent, and a reminder of the way movies used to be and the way these actresses used to be. And she is magical and wonderful in every other way the movie is otherwise lacking. And so if you see Mary Poppins Returns for anything, see it for Angela Lansbury's cameo at the end. Oh, by the way, and Meryl Streep is very, very funny in it. But the movie as a whole is mostly forgettable. It's not offensive.
Right.
It's not offensive, and it has its moments, and so.
And I guess I'll just kind of cap this off by saying that Disney, like we're going to be seeing more of this kind of thing. I read an article a little while ago saying that as box office sales start to slump, people aren't going to the movies. They instead of buying the rights to big things, they're going to reuse old things and make more money that way. But hey, Nathan, music in the background means that we'll be right back. Everyone, stay tuned. More Computer America, more Popzara, and hey, we're just having fun with it. Everyone, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here, and we're going to try something different. So everyone, we're continuing on Nathan Evans' Popzara magazine, and if you missed any part of today's show, check out the podcast, check out the video portion, and all that good stuff. Everyone, you can find that at computeramerica.com. But we're going to try something here real quick, and hopefully it doesn't cause everything to short circuit and we get flung back in time to the 1980s. Let's try this out. So let's see. Let's punch in the super secret number that is Craig Crossman, that only me, you, Nathan, and about 1,000 PR agents know. And we are going to try this. Can you hear the phone ring, Nathan?
I can hear that.
Oh, perfect. All right. I didn't know that would work. So let's see what happens. So
this is live.
Live.
Magic live radio.
He was.
Hi.
Oh. Hi, Craig. Everyone. Craig Crossman, founder of Computer America, and of course the longtime host, is with us once again. Craig Crossman, how you doing? Welcome onto your program.
Hi. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nathan, how you doing? Say hi to Craig.
Craig, long time no hear. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing okay.
That's great. So, and Craig, sorry to interrupt you, but obviously this is our last show of the year. We've had a long year, and missed you sorely. Of course, we'll say that. Mm-hmm. And you have been watching, manipulating, monitoring behind the scenes of Computer America, making sure that the wheels don't fall off. But Craig, I believe you wanted to call and wish everyone a happy holiday.
Yes, happy holiday, and I hope you have a pleasant New Year.
I couldn't say any better myself. So, and of course, Craig, sounding great, and and looking forward to a lot more holidays with you. And yeah, anything else you'd like to say to the audience, Craig? I'm sure that you miss them.
Yes, I do, and just happy New Year, and that's it.
All right. And Nathan, anything to say to Craig? Because I know, hey.
Yes. Craig, we miss you. We hope you can join us again soon, and may your hard drives never get floppy.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Thank you for taking our call. Thank you for coming on the air. And looking forward to, we have to get you on sooner than an entire year. So, Craig, happy holidays, happy New Year, happy Hanukkah, Saturnalia, all that good stuff. Craig, thanks for doing this.
Bye-bye now.
Later.
Bye.
All right, and there he goes. He is out, and everyone, I should not have to explain who Craig Crossman is, and obviously, hey, still kicking. I promise I did not lock him in a closet. He's still here doing his thing behind the scenes, and just making sure Computer America continues. And speaking of Computer America continuing, let us go ahead and, we were talking movies just before the break. We were wrapping up Mary Poppins. And by the way, Nathan, I will say that, when you Google Mary Poppins Returns, the first two news stories are Dick Van Dyke and, dancing at 93. And I guess it made an impression on a lot of people.
It does. It if nothing else, and forgive us the timing of this conversation after Craig was on the phone.
Yeah, sure.
But there's something to be said about honoring the people that were there before and the performances and what they built up, and this is just something there that should be respected. And I think if we had more of that, I think people would appreciate that more. I trust me, it's very much heartfelt.
Yeah.
Nothing against new people.
No.
Nothing. And by the way, Emily Blunt is not only one of the most talented actresses we have, she's also one of the hottest. And that sort of combo doesn't come very often. And so, it's a double blessing. And John Krasinski, Halloween is very interesting at his house, I'm very sure. So,
okay, so we're gonna blow through some of these other ones, and I gotta say the marketing for Welcome to Marwen was some of the most invasive, intrusive.
I saw that today, by the way. I saw it this morning.
Perfect, and we're going to talk about it. But I will say that the marketing for it, because I frequent a site called Reddit. I think a lot of people do. It's like the number 4 website
Reddit?
on.
Yeah,
Reddit.
What's this Reddit you speak of?
Yeah, no one's ever heard of it, but it's the number 4 website in the world. And I got to say that, seeing these random posts of oh my God, Steve Carell. There we go. Steve Carell. After you've heard nothing from Steve Carell for like 5 years, and then suddenly you see like 3 posts a day about Steve Carell, and you're like, I'm being advertised to. What the heck? And then he comes out with Welcome to Marwen. And so just real quick, because you've seen it, what'd you think? This seemed like a very, I don't want to say edgy movie, but different.
It's going to be very divisive. At once upon a time, Robert Zemeckis was my favorite movie director of all time, and I think even if you didn't know it, he might have been yours as well. It's the guy who was a understudy of Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. In the 1980s, had an almost unparalleled degree of success. This is the guy who did Romancing the Stone, Back to the Future trilogy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, Contact. Just amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I'm missing stuff in there. And then he took a hiatus for like 11 years to do animation, right? And he did like all the Tom Hanks movies, like The Christmas Story and Beowulf and all this. Not Beowulf. Did I say Beowulf? It would have been really funny if I would have said Baywatch, and if he would have done Baywatch. No, but he did these, he worked on perfecting this live-action looking CG, and then he abandoned it and came back with the Denzel Washington movie, and he did a movie about the guy on the high wire, and he did one with Brad Pitt, nothing memorable. And then Marwen, which merges his live-action with his CG. It's based on, I don't know, are you familiar with the story about Marwen?
I am not whatsoever.
Well, it's based on both a true story and a documentary that came out a couple of years ago. It was called Marwen Co., I think it was called. I want to make sure I get Marwen Co. And it's based on a true story of an artist who was beaten senselessly. His memories were literally kicked out of him, and he now manages his mental illness through creating photographs using dolls. And to complicate things matter, he may be a transvestite who has a fetish for ladies' shoes, which may have led to his beating. And so there's elements of adult themes in a heartwarming family tale for Christmas. So you can see where I'm having trouble describing this movie.
Yeah. See, it seems like a lot of obviously something like this is going to be a lot of undertones and metaphors and blah blah blah. And so
yeah. And so the reason the movie's going to be divisive is because on one hand it's spectacularly well made, like make no mistake, like it checks every box. The acting's fantastic. Steve Carell has never been better. The cinematography, the music, the special effects are unparalleled. It's the best CG I've ever seen. The way they've done it, the way they've constructed it, it's seamless, and it's visually and audibly a great movie. And it's just a mess. Everything else, and that's not to say it's a bad. It's a creative mess. But this is the guy that made Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Remember this. And so the problem is you have this very real story of this man who's severely depressed and mentally ill, and yet they're creating action scenes out of his fantasies. And it's, on one hand, I don't want to use the word disrespectful, but you understand that I'm tiptoeing up to that line. It almost feels disrespectful to take, when you have moments of clarity and you have moments of emotional impact, and then to switch over to CGI. And it doesn't always meld, I think. Do you remember that movie that came out with Jim Carrey years ago called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Yeah.
It worked on similar, I think it was Michael Gondry. It worked on similar themes where they used special effects and they used weird plotting to sort of visualize mental instability. And in this movie, it's more big budget cinematics. And I'm not sure if the mix is appropriate. Like I said, it's just so well made. It's so well made. But then you get into the undertones of the real story, and there's a sexuality there. There's a promiscuity there that's integral to the story. And the documentary didn't really talk about this, but the Robert Zemeckis movie does. And I want to be clear. This is a movie where a man is a possible transvestite with a fetish for women's footwear that gets beaten sensibly, and yet it becomes a heartwarming tale of acceptance and CGI women in stilettos and machine guns. How does one summarize a movie like this? So
I think that it could go either, obviously, and trust me, in a hypersensitive society, people can. I think two people can go in expecting two different things and come out either offended, justifiably offended, or they can come out going, wow, that's an interesting story. I can see what they tried to do there, and they can come out entertained. I think what you're going to get from it is kind of what you expect from it.
I will say this, though. Last year we had a movie called The Book of Henry, which was written and directed by a guy named Colin Trevorrow, who is the guy who directed Jurassic World. And the success of that was pegged him to do Star Wars Episode 9. But like this movie, like Marwen, The Book of Henry was so discombobulatedly strange, and the material was a little uncomfortable. And the movie was a disaster at the box office and critically. And it was such a disaster that they pulled Star Wars away from him. I don't imagine Marwen's going to do any box office. I can't imagine this thing being popular. But as a spectacle, you're seeing something on the screen, Ben, that you've never seen before. You've never seen a movie like this before. You've never seen a movie like this. So from that perspective, it's easy to recommend.
Right.
But you have to be very careful who you recommend it to.
Okay,
and that's the problem.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
That's completely fair. And to keep this from being an entire movie show, we're going to, or at least I'll let you have just a quick word about the Hellboy reboot trailer, Men in Black trailer, and then we're going to move on to some other stuff.
Speaking of reboots, right, or continuations, don't know anything about the Hellboy movie except for David Harbour plays the character that made popular by Ron Perlman.
Yeah,
he looks fun.
Good.
The movie looks fun. And by the way, David Harbour played the lovable, pudgy sheriff in Stranger Things. I did not expect it to look so different than the Guillermo del Toro versions, and so I want to say it made me much more interested in seeing it. Fair,
right?
And the Men in Black trailer, all you need to know is that it is not a reboot; it is a sequel. Many of the characters return, minus, of course, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, but who's to say they don't? Or they might be setting it up. It looks passable. You know what I mean? It didn't look didn't look anything special, but it didn't look offensive. It looked like another one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, from what I heard, people were saying it was like it looks like it follows some tropes of some very obvious spy movies, and overall, it's just like, okay.
Well, I got this, though. I have been saying for years, I've said it on this show, that Chris Hemsworth is not an action star. He's a comedian. And after him being in that horrible Ghostbusters reboot and seeing him in Thor Ragnarok, I think people have finally realized he's actually a talented comedian. And Tessa Thompson is a true movie star. And so I'm really happy to see, like, these people have charisma.
Right.
And I know they have charisma because they had charisma in Thor Ragnarok together. So they're back, and now they're fighting the MIB. So
all right. So for the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to go over some articles that I found, and one of them actually encapsulates one of the topics that you had, and TechCrunch, they're a great publication. Follow sometimes with it. Honestly, for me, they do the startup scene a lot, but I'm not too interested in that. But they did have this nice little recap. Brian Heater, Matt Burns, obviously collaborated on this article of the best and the worst tech products. I really don't care about the best. The best are good. They have like the Google Hub, the Osmo Pocket, Oculus Go, and they have a backpack. Perfect. Whatever. I'm sure that
I love the backpack, by the way. I love because that you never think about backpacks being tech, but they are. They can be.
We have a review of a backpack. It was very cool.
We do too. It's been fun.
Just all the thought that, and it really, it seems like a lot of tech stuff. It's not even so much how to protect the stuff that's in your bag. It's how to get it through TSA as quick as possible. So
it's the number one choice of terrorists around the world.
Well, not even terrorists, but just like, you're going to look weird having a laptop, a camera, blah, blah, blah. But I digress. The point is the worst, and I wanted just your quick initial reaction because we've actually mentioned a lot of these on the show before. The immediate one, which is kind of obvious, this is again the worst according to TechCrunch, and I think they collected a very good list here. The first one would be the Palm. And I think everyone remembers the Palm Pre, Palm Pilot, hugely successful before smartphones were smartphones, personal digital assistants, and Palm, I guess someone got the rights to it. I don't recall which Chinese manufacturer got the trademark, but they tried to release kind of like a smart remote for your phone, and this thing was just weird. And what did you think of the Palm?
I didn't think of the Palm, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's on here. I have a problem with TechCrunch and a lot of it in some of their choices for worst because sometimes they hold lower products more accountable than higher products. Look, when you're talking about resurrecting a brand, whether it's Palm or BlackBerry or Atari or whatever,
or Nokia,
it's in name or Nokia. It's in name only, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. And it's very hard to start a new product. You know this, right? It's very hard. It takes a lot of capital. Google has more failures than they have successes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Google has failures within product lines that they're also successful with. So if Google was a startup company, they wouldn't exist today. But they get away with it because the failures are subsidized by the successes.
Right.
So it's very hard. And so when it comes to innovating a product market, you have to look at, it's like keyboards on BlackBerry. It's like, people say, oh, we really want keyboards on BlackBerry. Do you? Do you really? Do you really?
I just gotta say real quick about the Palm was that you needed a data plan for it, and so you needed to add it on like you would a second phone, but it did nothing a second phone would actually do, and it had to be used in conjunction with your existing phone. I think it was just creating a new product is hard, but this one just seems so all over the place.
Well,
and yeah.
If you look at it, it's basically the Apple Watch. It's basically a smartwatch in a body, in a shell. That's all it is. And it reminds me of when Microsoft brought out that misguided camera thing called the Kin. Remember that years ago, where it was an internet-connected camera? That's all it did. Yeah, it was a huge failure, and it needed a data plan. It functioned like a cell phone. It was quickly killed off. And so, I mean, these things happen, but the problem is that I wonder what the research that led them to thinking this thing was feasible. Like, why did this thing... And I'm wondering how much money got laundered through capital investment in this. Because that's what I think a lot of these products are. They're just ways to funnel money illegally.
Could be that. And also, speaking of that, the next one, this article, I was actually looking forward to this for years. The red hydrogen one phone.
Everything I said about the Palm applies to the red hydrogen one.
Kind of, because Red, they're not a startup. They are the dominant camera company when it comes to filming, large cinematic feeds. Like, whenever you think of a Red camera, like, they're the $50,000, $200,000 cameras that they film movies on. So they have technology, they have the capital, they have the human ingenuity to come up with something interesting, and they came out with this $1,600 overpriced, overhyped phone, and it made you realize that even a company that has the capital, has the innovation. If people
what's the innovation, though? That's the thing. You said it was overhyped and overpriced. I mean,
yes,
the market's already saturated with those phones, with overpriced, overhyped phones. They called Apple and Google and Samsung. And so,
and I
do we
guess
really
the
need
scary
another one?
part, and like the scary part is, like, it was like we knew it was going to be overpriced to begin with, but the scary part is that now with the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X Max, whatever, that phone is like $1,400, and I can barely even say it's overpriced anymore because it's at the top end of the top end, but it's not as crazy as things were 2 years ago. But the phone was a mess. The body was a mess. Not comfortable to hold. The materials were weird. The operating system slow. The internals were not worth the $1,600.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a mess.
It makes you wonder, like, how does this stuff get through? Because if there's any one segment of the population that will find and nitpick every little flaw you have, it's the tech community. And the tech community is basically two things, and you know this. It's completely sycophantic, and to the point where
I would never be that. Yeah, exactly.
And then they're anal retentive, where every little flaw is nitpicked. And my question to you is, if you handed me the red hydrogen one, my first question would be, what's it for? And the second thing I would ask is, what does it do? And I don't think you can reasonably answer any of those questions.
Well, I know what they intended, and they intended it to be the best camera with an innovative display, and they delivered on neither. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. If you're Nikon or something, and you're used to making $15,000 lenses, and at the end of the day you slum it with a phone camera that's worse than an iPhone camera.
Yeah.
Again, what does it do?
Yep.
How do you justify its existence?
It's
the problem.
It really shows that, for Apple, Samsung, these existing phone companies, they can subsidize their phones because they can reuse parts. They have existing manufacturing lines. They can do XYZ. It just shows that, just like the Tesla and the car companies and all that good stuff, starting something from scratch, you are at such a huge disadvantage. But
you have to have one thing, though. If you're going to start from scratch, you got to. People will forgive all your flaws. People will give all your flaws.
But
right.
And again, sorry to rush this along, but I do want to rush you a little bit. So I want to skip over the Facebook portal.
Yeah.
What a horrible thing.
The world has skipped over the Facebook portal. There's no market for this. There's no market for this product.
Let us hope. So I want to skip down to the last one, and this was one that you actually wanted to talk about. PlayStation Classic. We've mentioned this on the show before, where it's man, I think Soulja Boy could come out with a better console than this thing.
I think I could come out with a better console. I think you could. I think my cat, who's sitting on my Xbox One X right now, my cat box, could come up with a better thing. Full disclosure, I reviewed this thing, and I don't really review a lot of stuff, but this thing pissed me off. And never has a piece of technology so aggravated me as the PlayStation Classic. I just sent you a link for it.
Uh-huh. And
here's the thing. This is the worst product that Sony has ever put their name on.
I don't think I've ever seen your Dino logo pass before. That's a first.
Yeah, we don't bring up the pass very much, and you'll note the color of the pass icon.
It's a little mustard brown. I can't use the other word, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not a color that you'll find in a Crayola box anytime soon. So, but I'll say this: this is a crass garbage product that was clearly designed by people who have no clue what they're doing. That were basically given the green light to mimic the success of Nintendo's Super Nintendo and NES classics, and not understand why people like them. This is a product that is so astonishingly inept, so completely and thoroughly bad, that I can only imagine that.
Yeah.
Huh? I mean, I'm on my soapbox, but I'll say this: nothing about this product, with the exception of its outer shell, its case, deserves to be talked about with anything other than scorn and contempt.
So I will say that we had on the show about a month ago at Games. They make the little all-enclosed 20 games, 50 games for the Super Nintendo. You see them at drugstores and Walmart checkout lines, things like that. Talking to them and in hearing about how much pain and effort and stress that they go through to get the rights, to get the source code, to make sure it plays well, to do X, Y, and Z. And that's on like a $20 console that you check out, as like an impulse buy. They went through a lot of work. And to see something like this, I doubt that they went through the work to get the source code. Isn't this thing just a glorified emulator that just ripped people off?
It is using a low-powered ARM processor. Mm-hmm. It is using a fork of a open source PlayStation emulator built for ARM that has not been optimized. And worse for wear, out of the mediocre game library that Sony cherry-picked, of which almost nothing is laudatory, that the games, first of all, the games are not optimized, they don't run well, and the games themselves, half the library, use PAL versions, not NTSC, which means they run worse than the NTSC versions. So they run worse on top of worse. And what's really striking about this, is that the Nintendo ones, now the people you talk to, I'm sure they do find products, but most people associate plug-and-play consoles with like Walgreens or CVS.
No, they're the ones who make those exact ones, yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo took it a step further and made a premium one, and it shows. If you've ever plugged in a Super Nintendo Classic, you think to yourself right now, I would never want one of those, until you plug it in, and then you're like, I can't live without it. The production, the quality, the software design, everything about it screams care and love. Mm-hmm. There are different levels of filters for the screen so it looks better. There's background music, there's save spaces, there's guides, there's memorabilia. This thing, nothing. This is like when you have those DVD burning software from the 90s. That's what it was. Like, plop, done, it. No features, no special features, no optimization, nothing.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Everyone, if you want to see the full review, and I like the fact that you too long didn't read is longer than the opening article. But the full review is there, and
it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah. And you had a lot to say about it. So I wanted to end this year, because this is last time until January that we'll be back on the air.
End it on a high note. Let's end this on a high note. We can't end it with PlayStation Classic.
Let's end it on the highest note that there possibly can be. And if you like snow, because it's the holidays, and you should, check it out. This image, if you're watching the video portion, check it out. If not, go Google it later. The Mars orbiter sends a picture-perfect postcard back to Earth just in time for the holidays. This coming to us from The Verge, but of course NASA. And they found a crater full of solid water ice. And it's gorgeous.
It is beautiful. Now, that picture that's been floating around, though, is that a computer-generated picture? Because I don't know how they got the camera angle.
No, it's the orbiter. It's orbiting Mars, and they looked down and took a picture of it.
But that's a meteor. That's a meteor crater, though, or an asteroid crater.
Yeah. And I think I read somewhere Mars has about 30,000 of these things. So they chose the right one at the right time and found ice.
You know what's interesting is that one of the theories of how life began on Earth is that life didn't begin on Earth, that it was brought over.
Yeah.
Like water itself was. And if you look at the size of this crater, the fact that it's conveniently filled with water, it lends a lot of credence to that idea that at some point in time, some ice planet may have exploded and sent giant meteors and asteroids, like giant ice sperms throughout the galaxy. And they just bombarded these planets with water molecules.
Fun fact, there even like right now you can find pieces of Mars, because of huge impacts that send debris flying throughout the solar system. You can find rocks from Mars on Earth, and that's perfectly possible. So hey, life could have started on Mars and gave us all the happy holidays. So
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead.
Tell you what. Happy holidays. Here's my final thought.
Sure.
When you showed me this picture, the first thing I thought was, hey, I heard Elon Musk was going to Mars. Looks like he landed.
There you go. So everyone, and hey, I'll let you have the last word. If people want to find out more, where can they go? And also, any last words until next year?
Popzara.com. It's a fun website, despite the fact we reviewed the PlayStation Classic. It's going to be a really good year. We're going to be working with Ben and Computer America for CES next year, so stay tuned for that.
Absolutely, looking forward to it, and trust me, a lot of very innovative and interesting guests come from CES, so we're definitely looking forward to that, and looking forward to your coverage out there at the event. Which people are you sending out this year?
I'm sending our good old-fashioned Herman Exum and special guest Chris Mitchell, the guy who reviewed Aquaman. Woo!
Very cool. All right, and looking forward to Herman and Chris's obviously coverage out there, and looking forward to all of it. And Nathan, I can't think of a better guest to have on the show for our last show of the year. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for everything that you do over at Popzara magazine. And everyone else out there, once again, thank you, Craig, for calling into the show. That was great. And everyone out there listening, have a great year. Have another great year as you listen to Computer America. And catch us in January. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.